My man give me one, me not left him. No, me not left my man because him cheat. Worse, if we there for a couple of years well, we make life together, build together, and because him cheat, me gonna left him give a next girl? No, girl. Me not left with a broken heart and bare sadness and the next girl happy with all of my work for. No, the three of us go in this together, or the girl have to go. Girl, you have to go because I ain't going. Whereas if a man not disrespect me and he not fling a bun in my face, me just find out because my fast or people say, no girl, you got to go because I ain't going. Next girl get happy with all of my work for me left side and only. Nope. Make a fully yam yam yam.
So that is a lady with all her senses intact, my people. Beautiful young lady. When you hold all women like them, they put ring on them, 10 fingers and 10 toes, my people. You get me? I say, yeah, man, they just full off with bearing. Mama says she nah left her man for no side chick. Them either go work together or the side chick have to go on. That is a sensible woman. And when I think I go ask the girls them on the channel opinion on that, because them are going to come with some foolishness. You get to me and say, man, them want to say, when you give her 10 out of 10, I know say all of them man them must say 10 out of 10 for mama. That is that. But anyways, my people, we have a couple things to talk about. You get to me and say, well, that's where the likes of VYBZ KARTEL is basically endorsing him. African brothers, I make it be clear, say, don't get this thing confused with this warring over Afrobeats and dancehall and so forth. You get to me and say, don't corrupt the thing. Because when you check Africa, him say when him link up Burna Boy and Davido and, Whiskey and all of the other ones, them, him say, yo, I won, Africa said we. You get to me and say, track it right back to Jamaica and Haiti and all over my people. Check this out.
No, TJ, believe me, because remember, Shatta Wally, my brother that. So when I say Red Boom,
Right.
to them I talk to Whiskey, my brother that. I talk to Davido the other day, my brother that. I talk to Burna Boy the other day, my brother that. The point I'm trying to make is one African family dominate the globe. From Africa to the Caribbean to America to Europe. So may I say, so we now showing that unity, showing that strength, bro, we're unstoppable. One Africa and a one God, and he's the greatest.
Yes. So yeah, my people, that is what VYBZ KARTEL is saying, loud and plain and clear. I get to me and say, my people. Also, when I see where him would load like some new music videos and so forth, I think he's premiering a video for him hit song Ignite the World, a song that released in a while, but you don't know it's a man that was behind bars, so probably him see it fit where some of the songs him go do a music video for them. I get to me and say, my people, so you don't know how the thing goes as it relates to that. But outside of that, my people, would I see where the likes of Shaquille Murray, is stating that do good and good will follow, and he would have used Bounty Killer as a reference, my people. You get to me and say, yeah, man, and he's saying that, probably good seeds that Bounty Killer sowed in the past, maybe I bring him very good fortune in him older days, my people. Check it out.
The Bounty Killer. Yeah, hear me? I want to send this to Bounty Killer. Yeah, hear me, Bounty? Count your blessings, them brethren. Count your blessings. There is a good man, You help a lot of people in the earth. You help a lot of people in the music. And you help a lot of people in a charity. And now you see them blessings there. A flow around back on your table. Right now, Killer sit down on a Canadian visa, an American visa, and a British visa. Then, a man with them try to lock out of the business and try to shut him down. And you see the goodness that the eye do Bounty Killer, it you reap right now. That's why I tell you, I say, do good and make good follow on, You hear me I tell you, Bounty, big up yourself to the max.
So yeah, my beautiful people, that is what Shocking Murray is saying, you know, my people. You get what I say? And also, interestingly, along the whole visa line, would I say where, you know, a veteran in the thing as well, where would I speak on musical topics, my people, and, you know, contribute to the musical atmosphere as well, my people. Would I see where Irish and Chin is basically, you know, stating that when it comes on to dancehall music and artists getting the visas, he's stating that getting a visa, while it's a good thing, it does not mean that an artist are going to automatically just sell out any venue and all of that. The people, you get what I say? And when him say it over on him Instagram, I see several fans have different perspective and views. So more of it here want to think about this, my people. So check it out.
Can somebody tell me why, you know, everybody feels that getting back a visa equates to, you know, ram shows automatically, right? Can somebody tell me why the artists then feel like, you know, getting back a visa equates to big price? Because everybody's been sitting and waiting for them to perform. Right? We need to have real conversations in our industry, and some of the conversations will hurt people's feelings, but that doesn't mean that they don't need to be had. And we need to have these conversations without fear of who's not going to like us or who's not going to talk to us and who are going to vex and blah, 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 blah. Right? I hear everybody talking about the visa thing. And let me say this. The visa situation, the visa reinstatement is a great thing for dancehall, because in the last couple of years, we've been really taking a beating with dancehall. And now that we got back so much elite members of the artist fraternity, we know that we're able to compete with the other genres of music now, hands down, if we present ourselves properly and do the right thing. But we have the individuals now that have access to do so and raise the bar. However, for you to think that every individual that gets a visa is guaranteed to get a ram show just because, or not, let me not even say show, tour, just because, you're absolutely wrong, right? When an artist is not able to access a particular place for a large amount of time, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever, 25 years, what it also could mean, I'm not saying this is the case for everybody, but what it also could mean is that that territory went on without the artist. The artist doesn't have the relevance that they had once upon a time in that territory, because the fans that they appeal to have either grown up and aged out of the industry. They may not be no more interested in the artist, them stop the dance, them stop the stage show. And if that particular artist doesn't have new material that is capturing new fans, then that artist is coming back to England, America, and Canada with the same catalog to service the same exact people that possibly aged out of the marketplace, right? So you got to think about that. Nothing is guaranteed. You know, it's a great thing for reggae and dancehall that everybody is back, or almost everybody's back. But we are gonna, you know, there's gonna be some disappointments. There's gonna be some artists who feel like them big enough and strong enough to go on some big tour and now go work out the way them want to work out. There's gonna be some artists that every single show is gonna be sold out just because people are waiting to see them. But it's not guaranteed. You know what's also not guaranteed? It's not guaranteed for an artist to charge, you know, based on them not being able to be here for so much years, right? So it's not guaranteed that you're now worth X amount because you haven't been here for 5 years. You're not worth X amount because you haven't been here for 10 years. And it goes right back to the example that I gave you guys, that, you know, in your absence, somebody else may have taken your place, or your fans have walked away from just being interested in the type of music that you offer. Leave your comments below. I know some of you will agree. I know some of you will disagree, but we gotta have the real conversations.
Wow. So yes, my beautiful people, that is what Irish and Chin is saying, you know. I don't know what the thoughts or the view on his views and perspective, my people. You get what I say? Yeah, man. But that is his views as it relates to the visa thing. Stating that, don't get it twisted. I get to me and say, yeah, man. No, say it's a good thing to get visa, but getting visas automatically means you're going to sell out shows. So don't get ahead of yourself. I do not know if he's shading anyone specifically, my people. You know, who don't have to be the judge of that. But, you know, I am just listening to his argument. And also, we have a bit of political stuff, my people. As a matter of fact, we are going to like look into, you know, one specific thing. When I see where, you know, the wrapping up of the financial or the budget presentation overall, my people, would have like Favour Williams with closing arguments, and when I see where she big up the likes of dancehall entertainer, Mr. Vegas, stating that Mr. Vegas understood our message about the $2,000 and the Pro Box thing. I don't know, that is a viral topic over social media because a lot of people is stating that that argument never make any sense. However, Miss Favour is stating that she had defend one cocoa full basket and encouraging people say them to save a little. You see what I say? And not just frolic out and whatever, my people. However, as I say, that wasn't pleasing to a lot of people. As I say, she would have big up Mr. Vegas, but also would have, you know, clap back heavily at the PNP and Mark Golding, stating that if them get to run the country based on her calculations, it would end up in a finsack to my people. I don't know if you're not going to agree with this or disagree, but I want to hear on a viewpoint after I watch it. So check it out.
And I want to thank Mr. Vegas and others in social media who understood the message of one cocoa full basket. Rome was not built in a day. Take your hand, make fashion. Who stood up in social media against the nonsense videos about $2,000 Pro Box. Madam Speaker, let me caution the opposition and their supporters about how they talk about Pro Box. Currently, there are 23,423 Pro Box vehicle owners in Jamaica. So be very careful that you don't disrespect Pro Box. Be very careful. Be very careful. Be very careful that you don't disrespect Pro Box, which is made by Toyota, the largest car manufacturer in the world.
Minister, it would appear that the members would like to be here until 9 o'clock tonight.
Madam Speaker.
Please allow the minister to present
Madam
uninterrupted.
Speaker. It is a vehicle that has been around for 20 years and has been a resounding commercial success for Toyota. It is fuel efficient and has very good aftermarket value. So be careful how you speak about Pro Box. Madam Speaker, it's not where you begin, it's where you end. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. Madam Speaker, we've come to the closing hour of the budget debate for fiscal year 2025-26. Madam Speaker, our Prime Minister, the teacher, the professor, the builder, has given us a history lesson that should be required reading for all of us so that we do not repeat the failed policies of the opposition, not the experiment with democratic socialism where everything is owned by government, not the hyperinflation years of 1973 to 1991 with inflation ballooning to 80%, not FinSA, that cost us US $3.4 billion, not the freeing up of the foreign exchange market without adequate foreign currency reserves. Madam Speaker, those are only some of the failed policies when the opposition was in government that are still reverberating today, meaning the impact of the failed policies are continuing and still have serious negative effects. Madam Speaker, we're not making excuses. These failures are hard for our economy to overcome. They are the equivalent of putting 100-pound weights on our athletes and saying to them, run and win gold medals in champs and the Olympics. Impossible, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, when we remind people about history and the failed policies of the opposition when they were in government, it is to help them to understand that we have not totally freed our economy of the drag on GDP growth that those failed policies still have up to today. Madam Speaker, if we did not have FinSAC deal to deal with, think of how much better off we would be as a country. Think of all the resources we would have at our disposal to invest in economic growth. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister has made the National Housing Trust a big part of his growth agenda that will continue to bring decent housing to all who are in need. Madam Speaker, my one word for the Prime Minister's presentation is brilliant. From beginning to end, brilliant. Madam Speaker, the spokesman on finance put forward promises. Madam Speaker, the spokesman on finance put forward promises, but no costing. The leader of the opposition put forward more promises as well, but no costing. They also came with their recounting of history. Sadly, Madam Speaker, it did not include FinSAC and the long-lasting drag that the homegrown financial sector collapse has had on the Jamaican economy, even to this day. Madam Speaker, in both of their speeches, not a word was said about FinSAC, not an apology, not an acknowledgement. It was as if FinSAC never happened. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker,
members,
Madam Speaker, the leader of the opposition spent a lot of time talking about the NHT. The first proclamation he made is that he will stop the annual extraction of the $11.4 billion from NHT to fund the budget. He said he would set aside 1% of food import tax, which would be $2.5 billion per annum. He promised employers an increase in the employer tax credit to 40% from 30%. He went to town, Madam Speaker, decrying securitization. Right? The government is taking future revenues today, All told, between opposition leader and spokesman, they made promises upon promises upon promises. But did they give the Jamaican people any idea of how much those promises would cost? And whether or not that they would have to cut back on something to do what they're promising? No. They said they are united with fresh ideas and solid plans, ready. But let's see if indeed that would be the case. Madam Speaker, allow me, Madam Speaker, to demonstrate to the people of Jamaica that the promises from the opposition would create FinSAC 2.0. You see, Madam Speaker, the opposition put forward a lot of words with few figures. But within all those pages and pages and pages of words is a budget, an implied budget, Madam Speaker. And it is that implied budget that I would like all Jamaicans to understand, because it has serious negative ramifications for our future. So, Madam Speaker, let's begin. I will lay out, side by side, the central government's budget for fiscal year 2025-26 and the opposition's implied budget for that fiscal year as well. These are the headings, starting with chart number 1. Yes.
Madam Speaker, I rise. Madam Speaker, I rise on a point of order because the minister is misleading the House. We did not present an implied budget for the coming fiscal year. We presented our proposals, our policy commitments for the next PNP government. And we have never said that they will be implemented in the current fiscal year. They are... As has been said, the budget... After today, the budget would have been passed for the fiscal year. Our proposals represent what we will be doing for the duration of our first term in office. And that is what we were saying. And they will all operate within the current fiscal rules. Stop misleading the House.
Dismiss it. That is no point about it. Turn on our mind. So I am a beautiful people. I am not sure when I think about favorable presentation so far, but as me say, it hot and a steam. Jaja know a bit things go on in a parliament to people. You get what I say? But basically, our aim is for basically she is stating that the PNP leader like Mark Golden and so forth made a budget presentation and he would have promised a lot of good stuff to people. However, she's basically stating that when it comes down to all of these good stuff that Mark Golden presented, he never really present the expense that come with it. So that is what she would have explained, and she would have stated that that would have come up to some figures to like about $40 billion and so forth. People, you see it, and basically I say, running the country panda level, they would have definitely put a strain on the economy and run it to wreck. That is basically what she are trying to imply, my people. But I could continue listen.
Madam Speaker, this is a budget debate. And anything you put forward has fiscal implications. So, Madam Speaker, because I was interrupted, let me start again. Madam Speaker, allow me to demonstrate to the people of Jamaica that the promises from the opposition will create FinSAC 2.0. You see, Madam Speaker, the opposition put forward a lot of words with few figures, but within all those pages and pages and pages of words is a budget, an implied budget. Madam Speaker, they did not put forward, Madam Speaker, they did not put forward an explicit budget, but they put forward ideas, and those ideas can be costed, and they should have been costed and made into a budget. So, Madam Speaker, let us begin. Again, I will lay out side by side with the central government's budget for fiscal year 2025-26 and the opposition's implied budget for the fiscal year 2025-26 as well. So, Madam Speaker, as I indicated last week, the tax revenue that the central government is projecting, Madam Speaker, I do need some protection from the noisy gallery over there. Madam Speaker, as I indicated last week, the tax revenue that the central government is projecting for fiscal year 25-26 is $949,494,000,000. This is represented on the screen, chart number 2. The opposition did not have any objection to that figure. They didn't put forward any opinion as to whether or not that revenue figure is too high or too low. So I'm taking that as an implied acceptance. And so I will give them on their side of the ledger $949,494,000,000 in their column as well. Our tax revenues represent a 5.9% increase over what we collected for fiscal year 2024-25. That is coming to a close. That's a little bit above inflation, no wild assumptions, plus, Madam Speaker, we already subtracted all the give-ups in that figure. It's not to come. We took it out of the revenue projections already. And that cost was $9.2 billion. That's the cost of the good news that we presented, yes. So, Madam Speaker, I'm going to add that back to the opposition's column because, to be fair, those were our give-ups, not theirs, right? So we're going to put it back there. Right, right, those are, right, so we put it back on their side of the ledger. right? Yes. So in the next chart, we move on to the next line item in the budget, non-tax revenues. These non-tax revenues, Madam Speaker, they include the 11.4 billion from NHT. They include asset sales, any share sales, for example, Trans-Jamaica. This is also where we put distributions from public bodies. And this would be where we have securitizations. They don't like that, so they can't get it. No, Madam Speaker, do you remember how the opposition leader declared that he would stop extracting the 11.4 from NHT, and that securitization is us taking revenues from the future to spend in the present, and something about, and you know, yes. Well, Madam Speaker, we cannot put any revenues from that in their column. Right, nothing. We would offend them if we did. So nothing there, Madam Speaker. So we move on to the next item, the bauxite levy. Madam Speaker, we are projecting to receive $812 million in bauxite levy. And we will put that same amount, bauxite levy, on their side of the ledger as well. I know the opposition loves bauxite levy. They may even want to increase this number in their explicit, not their implied, their explicit budget. Yes. Because it was Michael Manley-led government who, after all, took on the transnational bauxite companies and imposed the 1974 bauxite levy. So they have a history with levies. As the history was written, Madam Speaker, in May 1974, Prime Minister Manley announced that Jamaica would repeal previous agreements Madam Speaker, as the history was written, in May 1974, Prime Minister Michael Manley announced that Jamaica would repeal previous agreements with the bauxite companies and impose a production levy on all bauxite either exported from or processed in Jamaica. Madam Speaker, anyone can read the history books about how that turned out. Revere Bauxite Company closed its shutters little more than a year later on August 19, 1975. Reynolds folded and left Jamaica in 1984. Alcoa also temporarily closed its gates in Clarendon on February 6, 1985. Yes, Madam Speaker. Yes, Madam Speaker. Jamaica did get increased earnings from the bauxite levy, which went from US $19.2 million in 1973 to a whopping US $180 million in 1974. But Madam Speaker, the levy also moved the cost of Jamaican bauxite from being the cheapest to the most expensive worldwide. In an article entitled "The Bauxite Levy 40 Years On, Who Let the Puss Out of the Bag?" the author quoted Dr. Davis and economist Dennis Morrison as saying that Jamaica has little to show from the bauxite levy, and that the country suffered through ill-fated projects and misspending of the bauxite levy funds, which were lodged to the Capital Development Fund. The upshot of all of this, Madam Speaker, is that bauxite companies began increasing their investments, not in Jamaica, in other bauxite producing countries, and Jamaica consequently lost its position near the top of the ratings as a world-leading producer. Another failed policy of the opposition, and as the bauxite left Jamaica, so did high-paying jobs. The opposition spokesman has some nerve, Madam Speaker, talking about low-paying jobs now. It's your government failed policy that sent the high-paying jobs in the bauxite industry packing. But, Madam Speaker, I digressed. Let me get back to the implied budget of the opposition. All right, so the next line item is capital revenue. We are phasing out this line, so there's no money there because it's incorporated elsewhere in the budget. So we move on to the next line, which is grants. We're projecting to receive $5.9 billion, call it $6 billion in grants. We will put that on the ledger of the opposition as well. So those are the revenue items, Madam Speaker. On our side, we expect to see revenue and grants of $1 trillion, 96 billion, and 83 million. On the opposition side of the ledger, they have an implied budget of implied revenue of 965 billion, 443 million, because they don't want any securitization or NHD contribution or other non-recurring revenues. They especially don't like securitization. And they figure, Madam Speaker, if they speak badly against securitization over and over and over and over again, Jamaicans will begin to think it's a bad thing, because after all, the leader of the opposition was a partner in a very big financial sector company, and so he must know a thing or two about securitization. And if he says he doesn't like securitization, then Jamaicans probably would conclude that something is wrong with securitization. But I want to say to Jamaicans, there is nothing wrong with securitization. The global securitized market is massive, nearly US 13 trillion. Research shows that 73% of residential mortgage debt is funded by securitization. 16% of auto loans are funded by securitization. 27% of commercial real estate debt is funded by securitization. 7%.
So you have a beautiful people, that is Fairval Williams, Yeah, man, you don't know how the thing go. So you have a beautiful people, that is Finance Minister Fairval Williams, people. You get what I say? And observing the whole political thing from a clear and upfront perspective, my people, boy, it's really interesting. You get what I say? Yeah, man, really interesting. Trust me, and that is the reason why I say, a lot of people are Jamaicans are have interest in Jamaica. Them for observe them thing hear what the people must say and make sure them not trick them or whatever. You get what I say? Them, and when I talk for no specific side, just observe and look into what makes sense and what don't make sense. Don't make no man come tell you nothing and trick you or tell you what them feel like with no specific agenda. You see, just go and observe what them say, what them deal with. And as me say, you can be the judge if what them say makes sense or not, my people. But as me say, this debate was actually steaming, my people. You get me? I say normally ones that say when it comes down to Fairval, she does more on the calm side, my people. But it's like she talk up a bag of things. So I go curious to see how will like the PNP basically respond to what she's saying and so forth, my people. Get to me, I say, yeah, man. But we will give you updates in our further videos. But leave your thoughts and tell me what you think about Favour's presentation. If you don't feel like she talk what makes sense, if you don't feel like a foolishness or whatever. Big up on yourself and bless up on yourself. Catch you in another one. I'm out.